In this presentation, I want to bring special attention to Saturn conjunct the galactic center. The galactic center is approximately 27 degrees Sagittarius, just shy of, in fact, and allowing for a small degree of orb, less than 1 degree, we can observe Saturn appearing to hover, so to speak, right at the galactic center, which is quite special because in astrology, the galactic center is considered a spiritual point. It represents a theme, at least, of the spiritual sort. It doesn't mean that just anybody who has that accented is ultra spiritual, but generally any planet in a natal chart hovering or conjunct the galactic center is regarded as having a spiritual theme of influence, when we define the term spiritual, well, we can bring forward a higher ideal of unity, basically speaking. And that's what Sagittarius strongly represents. And the archer aiming the arrow towards the galactic center, representing a theme of aspiration towards unity. The center point would be equal to all other points on the circle. So it has a theme of and principle of unity within it, which is also generally true of Sagittarius in its highest reaches. So Saturn conjunct the galactic center began in late February, and I'm going to use the new moon in Pisces, the solar eclipse moon on February 26th, as the start date. And what we're going to see here, I'm going to animate this chart. We're going to see incremental shifts at 1 day intervals every few seconds. We're going to jump 1 day, so we'll see the moon moving rather quickly when I animate this. But Saturn will stay quite close to 27 degrees. At the beginning of the video, we're seeing Saturn at the new moon on February 26th at about 26.5 degrees of Sagittarius, so it's just shy of exactly conjunct. And as we go, we'll point out when it's exactly conjunct, which is about 26 degrees, 50 minutes or so, just shy of 27. And then it'll in fact go past 27 degrees somewhat, but not very much. It'll always remain within orb, within less than 1 degree. On April the 6th, Saturn will station, in fact, meaning it will appear to be fully stopped in the sky due to it turning retrograde that day. We could even say that appearing to be stopped in the sky will last longer than just 1 day because Saturn is a rather far planet, actually, and the furthest planet we can see with the naked eye. And so it'll appear to be stopped for quite some time, weeks, in fact. So this phenomenon of planets appearing to be stopped in the sky is based on the relationship between the orbit of the Earth around the Sun and that planet. So it's a principle of retrogradation based on geocentric perspective. Anyway, that's the basic geek on it. But the main point is to watch Saturn as it hovers at the galactic center, and just to know that this is a rare event. It only occurs once in about a full Saturn cycle. Well, when I say once, due to the retrograde, what happens is it conjuncts the galactic center, then it retrogrades back over the galactic center, and then in this particular time cycle will conjunct the galactic center again around the 20th of November. And then that'll be it, and soon thereafter Saturn will enter Capricorn. So it will then begin its cycle through Capricorn. But while it's in Sagittarius, which it will have been by the time it enters Capricorn at the end of the year, will have been there for 3 years. So it stays in Sagittarius for quite a long time. Normally, it's about 2.5 years for Saturn to complete a cycle through a sign. So for it to stay longer, like 3 years, is interesting and worth noting on its own ground. The reason a planet like Saturn would stay longer in a sign, and this is true of other planets as well, is due to the elliptical orbit of the planets. They therefore will move faster through some signs and slower through others. And that's quite a fixed ratio as well. In other words, it will always be slower in certain signs and always faster in other signs. It doesn't change. So that's rather interesting too, but another story for another day. The main point for now is to watch Saturn. This is Saturn here, the little H principle. And there is that 2635. That's the symbol for Sagittarius. Now this is the new moon. There's the new moon, and there's the date here, February 26, 2017. We're using Greenwich as a start point for its 0 hour and the new day starting there. And it's interesting to note that Mars and Uranus were conjunct on that day, rather significant. And the new moon and Mercury conjunct the south node. There's a lot of factors. We're not going to go into all of those. We're just going to watch the Saturn phenomenon. You can watch the moon, though. It'll be moving the fastest. That'll give you an idea of the rate. And you can keep your eye up here on the date, moving one day at a time per beat as we go. Okay, so there we go. And I'm starting it now. So there we are, the 28th, 29th, March 1st, March 2nd. So you can watch the moon at the top. So just keep your eye mostly on Saturn, but you knowing it's not going to move very far, you don't have to overly watch it. But you can notice the moon moving and the date over here changing, etc. So it's moving rather quickly. And don't worry about the other planets at this time. A lot happens quickly in astrology. It's very alive. We're always seeing a motion of planets, and the aspects in the center are always changing. This is the dynamic that astrology is, which is very exciting, and where we get this real-time reality of transiting planets making aspects to our own chart. That's why the astrology rather significantly measures the movement of time over in a cyclic way, and especially how the planets relate to our own chart. Anyway, there's Saturn now. We're at April 7th, so it went stationary. Now it's retrograde. It wasn't retrograde there, but it is now. So now it's ever so slowly going backward. So it went to 2745, past the exact mark, but not a full degree. So we use that as a margin of measurement. Is it within 1 degree, etc. So now it's really moving back. We're at April 23rd, 24th, 25th. So Saturn continues to incrementally move backwards in its retrograde cycle, and we're going to just see how long it takes from February 26th, the new moon, the solar eclipse new moon, and we'll just watch as Saturn comes into exact conjunction, which it's about to do. As a matter of fact, it's doing it right now. So I'm going to pause. What we're looking at is May the 9th. What's really significant about that now, and this is really, really important, is because, and I'm going to go forward a bit so you can watch this. I'm backing up in days. We're at the 7th of May, the 6th, and we're just going to back up a bit until we get to what is in fact the day when the North Node enters Leo. So watch, this is the North Node. So on this day, which is April 27th, there's the lunar North Node in Virgo here, and there's Saturn conjunct the galactic center. So when within orb, we're going to go incrementally 1 degree ahead. So on April 28th, the North Node, which is the North Node in Leo and the South Node in Aquarius, change signs. Now, I didn't overly want to bring attention to that, but I was just reminded as we went along here that, oh yes, that's significant, because what happens, what coincides with other things in astrology can be considered important to observe and recognize, and it represents an important theme. So Saturn hovering, or so to speak, at the galactic center, retrograde, is there when the nodes change signs. So this is, we can take a snapshot of the sky at that moment. Whenever a planet or the moon's nodes, for example, enter a new sign, we call that an ingress chart. So we take a snapshot. It's like a natal chart, a freeze frame. And so that tells us a lot about, when we look at the whole chart, what's going on. One of the significant factors for that date, the end of April, is Mercury retrograde conjunct Uranus. That's a whole other story, which I'll be bringing more attention to in my horoscopes and newsletters. But what's significant about that is it's an exact conjunction, and it's playing a role in this whole chart. That they are trining Saturn. They're in a 120 degree angle within close orb, a couple of degrees, is significant, and it's a good sign. It's rather auspicious that Mercury's retrograde throws a curveball in on it, as is true with Mercury retrograde. This is where astrology has a lot of details, and it's never just a pat situation, and not a cookbook approach will do it real justice. So, okay, let's go forward from here, and we're just going to animate once again. So we're one beat per day. There's Saturn still hovering at the galactic center. And what I'm going to do once again is I backed up, I'm going to stop it again when it arrives exactly there, which is about here. Approximately, it's a late degrees of 26 to 27. We can bring it one more day perhaps, or two. Let's see, that was a bit too many. Yeah, that's about right. We're right at the end, right at the beginning of May, excuse me. So most importantly, there's Saturn still. So we're just going to go forward again. And here we go. All right. So Saturn conjunct the galactic center is the moon, moving in quite a bit, 12 to 14 degrees per day. So that Saturn now is going back quite a bit further than what it was at the time of the new moon. So we'll stop right there. We're at May 21st. So from February the 26th to May 21st, approximately 2 months, we get, 3 months, March, April, May, 3 months of Saturn conjuncting the galactic center. So we're just arriving still at that exact time with the moons, nodes, changing signs, and so forth. So we're really in it now. And obviously on the world stage, there's lots going on, and it's really dramatic in this universal 1 year. There's other reasons beyond some of the obvious, circumstantial realities in the political arena, especially on the planet. Take your pick on your interpretation and perspective on that. But from an astrological perspective and seeing the big picture, we see this backdrop. The as above, so below principle comes to the fore here. And there's more to see, but just on this basis, we've been watching Saturn hovering at that galactic center and holding that position in light of all of what else is going on. And what it basically is doing is it's more or less demanding us to bring attention to new rights and freedoms, liberties, and laws. Now, the reason I say that is because Sagittarius very significantly represents that theme. Sagittarius is very much linked to ethics and principles, philosophy, law, and so forth. And with Jupiter, the ruling planet for Sagittarius in Libra, that emphasizes that theme of justice, equality, fairness, etc. So you get those combined factors, and we're seeing that looking at Europe with all the new elections on the doorstep here, and of course in the United States and in Canada, we're all dealing with new leaders. So we're dealing with a lot of new leadership on the planet and also in China. And probably elsewhere that I'm not fully aware of, but those are very major players on the world stage, both Canada and the United States, France, Germany, and can't remember the other one, in Europe and in China, etc. So there's a lot of change going on at that level. And as we see a lot of demonstrations, a lot of people protesting, a lot of outcry about rights, freedoms, justice, equality, principles of those sorts. And, in the face of complex times, corruption invariably is at least perceived and is probably in fact occurring. The delicate balance between what is and what will be is always a difficult one for humanity, for governments to navigate through in as positive ways it can be said. So that said, that's the basic story. I will, though, before we go, I'm going to change the margin here to months. So each beat you see will be a month, and I'm going to just do it one at a time. So that's June 21st. That's, of course, as we see right here, there's the Sun conjunct Mercury interestingly enough, right on the summer solstice. That's worth mentioning briefly. There's Saturn now no longer conjunct the galactic center due to its retrograde. It's gone further back a few degrees. So we'll just consider that slightly out of orb. But we're going to go forward a bit faster now. There's July 21st. You can just have a look, and if I see something in particular that stands out, I'll bring attention to it. But now this would be just shy of the equinox in September. There's October 21st and November 21st. By that time, we see Saturn again conjunct the galactic center. So if I back up a bit, one beat, Saturn by this time is not conjunct. That's October 21st. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the margin of that we were going 1 month per beat. So I'm going to go 1 week per beat. We're going to go forward from this October 21st day and watch as Saturn at 24 there, and then 24:57, 25:39, really close now by November 11th. By November 18th, it's actually conjunct very closely. By November 25th, it's past the exact conjunct point that I said about the 20th of November. And as we go a little further now, we're at December 2nd, December 9th. Saturn is now past the point, still within orb of the galactic center, 29:34 here on December 16th. And by the winter solstice, it so happens, we have December 23rd to be exact here, Saturn has entered Capricorn here, you'll see. So actually we can have a little, since we're here, we might as well have a peek at that. So I'm going to go back by days, and we're just going to watch to see when does it exactly occur. So there's the sun, by the way, at the solstice. But we're going to go back and just watch what day Saturn exactly conjunct the galactic center, which was about the 20th of November. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to, more than anything, look at the sun on the day that it went into winter's conjunct the entered Saturn, entered Capricorn, excuse me, to create winter solstice. So there it is. That's 0 degrees sun, the 22nd. It depends on where you are exactly the date. Sometimes it shifts 1 day before, 1 day after, of course, because of the time frame, 24 hours. And the world time frames. But in any case, this tells us a little story, and there's Saturn entering its own sign, Capricorn, at the end of the year. So 2017, this universal 1 year, is rather special from that perspective. There's other perspectives, but from the perspective of Saturn conjunct the galactic center, which it is currently, as we are here on the 27th, the new moon in Aries, in fact, of March. 27th of March, and Saturn is conjunct the galactic center, and it started around the new moon, the solar eclipse new moon in Pisces, February 26th, and will be there until the end of May, pretty much the new moon there in Gemini at the end of May. So there's a big 3-month period during which it is conjunct the galactic center, and as mentioned, in April there, when the lunar nodes change signs from Virgo Pisces to Leo Aquarius, well, that's rather significant for our times, that 1.5-year cycle, and that will coincide with some drama. We'll bring more attention to that in another presentation, though, and just wanted to bring special attention to Saturn conjunct the galactic center and the spiritual themes that it represents. And by the way, one final word, Saturn represents what you should or must do, a sense of duty is connected to Saturn. It's not so much asking as it's demanding and, saying this is what you must do. So it really is speaking to on a collective level and on an individual level, but collectively it's sending a signal out, so to speak. Maybe it's not quite like that, but it synchronizes with the theme of people standing up and saying, hey, it's time to be seen and heard in terms of justice, freedom, equality, laws, and so forth in this dynamic changing time. So there you go, a little expose on Saturn conjunct the galactic center. Thanks for watching.